So I mentioned to all of you guys that the next thing I want to do with this is bring in more information. And that more information is to essentially create, more of an aesthetic to what's happening within the image itself. So that's the geometry that happens behind the cut. And it's mega simple. It's far simpler than you could ever imagine. In fact, we don't even need the section command. So let me kind of go back here in this view, all the way back to before I did that original Make 2D, which would be, oh, I still have the curves there. Let me get rid of all those extra curves. Okay, so the curves are gone. James's question was, can we do this with just the clipping plane? Can we create a section with just the clipping plane? The answer is yes. All you have to do is just select all the geometry, like I have here, and use that particular geometry in its current state to do a Make 2D. The difference is you need to now control which information is being shown. And unfortunately, with the Make 2D command, there isn't an option for just cut lines. So what we need to do is, well, I guess visible clipping planes will kind of give you that. It does have some control over that. But what we'll need to do is we're going to set up, let's see, how do I want to do this? All right, yeah, so I'm going to turn on hidden lines on this one so that we have multiple layers to work with. And you'll notice, and this is one that I have not found a graphic connection yet for, you'll notice that when you start to do hidden lines and you're doing visible lines and you have these smoothed corners, oftentimes some information gets lost. It's a little bit more difficult to do smooth corners with this. But let's give it a shot here, and we're going to say OK. And now you can see that it created a bunch of layers in my file. Just be aware that you now need to control all of the layers and sublayers that are associated with the view that you just exported. So let me pull this aside and let's take a quick look at it. So here's what we have. It looks like in my case it did successfully draw most of the exterior volumes pretty well. Some of the hidden lines probably need to be cleaned up and clarified for which ones I actually wish to include, because it looks like here, for instance, there might have been an imperfection in my filleted surface, and so it read it as an actual hard edge. That's what that means. If it draws a hidden line, that means that there is a hard edge in that location. So for those of you whose models are less than perfect, you're going to have a lot more of these. Right, and I have kind of a graphic error here as well. The truth is, when you're doing this, there aren't going to be any perfect models, right? No matter what we do, there's going to be some imperfection somewhere, at least within a reasonable time frame, So what I'm going to do here is just begin to control some of that and get rid of some of this information. So with something like that, I'll just delete those because they don't really contribute to the form that I'm essentially communicating, right? That. And the more extensive linear errors, I'll generally trim off. So I will trim, select these lines, and then I can get rid of those, those, and that. And it makes it a little bit cleaner. Over here, I'm not quite convinced what I want to keep, but I think I don't want this or that. I do not want the base of the model. I just want the line work of the geometry, so I'll get rid of all this extra stuff. Let's see, this goes around and then dips down. I'll leave some of that in there. Okay, so I'll decide later which ones I want to keep, but you should be aware that some of these hidden lines are on top of visible lines, I think. I hope it wouldn't. Yeah, oh, look at that. That shouldn't be a hidden line. So that's a good example of an error where this is actually an object line. Whoops. Right here, it should be an object line, but it didn't read it as one, so I'll switch that to the proper layer. You know, so all I'm getting at with this is that you need to go through and make sure that it's still reading right. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to give you all the information that you need at the click of a button exactly the way you need it. So let's take this line work and bring it into Illustrator, but it's a slightly different process. After you save the file, I'll save this as a dump file. I'll call it dump section BG for background. When you go into Illustrator, your layers, because I exported maintaining layers, that's very important. Your layers are actually going to need to be controlled. So what happens if I place the drawing? When I go to File and Place, and I select Dump Section BG, and hit OK, and I think you can merge swatches. Oh, that's weird. Took the whole view. Odd. Anyway, what it did was it actually put everything on one layer, which is unfortunate. So there's an easy way of fixing that. All you have to do is open that DWG first. Let me re-export that because I had everything selected by accident. So File, Export Selected. That's weird. I don't think I had everything selected. Okay. Go to File, Open, and open that file instead. And what you're going to see are all of these layers over here. So these layers you can actually copy and paste into your Illustrator file. Just drag and select and copy everything from here. Go into your Illustrator file, and what you'll need to make sure is on is if you hit this little button on the layers, there's a function down here. It's called Paste Remembers Layers. I think Illustrator initializes to have it checked off, so you got to check it again to turn it on, and then when you Control V to paste it in, it'll carry over all the layers with it. Then you just follow the same process that I showed you before. Kind of put it into place, stretch it to fit. Make sure you're holding Shift. Oh, did my camera angle change? Oh no, I aligned something. There we go. There we go. Okay. So I'm not going to exhaustively get everything to align perfectly right now. I am going to show you the process of actually getting the lines to show up properly and some methods for that. But at this stage, what questions do you have? Helpful yet? It'll be more helpful when you see the result.